Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Chuck Graham Show. Hairdo, gotta go. Tired of the 1970s look, gotta get it out of here. Let's talk about recession. Yeah, we're in one. Two negative GDP growth, negatives, is a recession. Been the definition for years, right? But somehow or another, Biden says, no. It's we're not really in a recession. We're just we're maybe heading that way, but we're fine. We created all these jobs. It's bullshit. The GDP says it all. The gross domestic product says it all. You understand? It's been that way for years. Now they want to change the rules. That's what Democrats do. Not just Democrats, leftists, Democrats, whatever. Rhino Republicans like Liz Cheney. But let me just say this to you. $600 billion in that bill they're trying to pass for climate change. Let me tell you something, folks. Any first-year science major knows this. And we know that climate change is real. It is. But it happens so fucking slow that nobody can do anything about it. I'm sorry. You just can't. So stop with all the bullshit. You can't do it. AP report. In 1989, they said that Miami would be underwater if we didn't do something about global warming. What the hell are we supposed to do about it? Stop the cows from farting? Okay, you reduce that. What do you got to do about the migration of buffalo in Yellowstone National Park? That's their populations are growing. My point being, it's nonsense. It's freaking nonsense. And any first-year science major knows this, knows it for a fact. As the polar ice caps freeze, let me just say this. As the sea levels rise, the Earth cools off. The polar ice caps, as they melt, the sea levels rise, and it cools the Earth off. As it does that and cools the Earth, the polar ice caps start to freeze again. As they freeze, the seas recede. Why? It takes up all that water. And they recede backwards, right? Then, as that happens, the Earth heats back up again. It's a vicious cycle. It's been going on for 10 or 14,000. It takes about 10 to 14,000 years. It's been going on for thousands of years. Why do we know that? Because off the coast of Oregon, there is a petrified forest with fresh water that is underwater right now. But if you take samples of those cypress that's underwater right now, you'll find fresh water in them. We know this happens. We know it happens every 10 to 14,000 years. There's not a damn thing you can do about it. And any scientist worth their salt knows this shit. Done. I digress. But it's ridiculous. And that's in the textbooks. Don't believe me. Don't ever believe me. Go look it up yourself. But it's nonsense. They've been saying this shit way back before 1989. But we're going to pass a $600 billion bill? $600 billion for climate change. Now, what that means is we're going to throw away $600 billion because we want to feel woke. I mean, we're so stupid in this country, we think men can get pregnant. They can't. Sorry. You have two genders, male, female. Men can't get pregnant. Women can. If you want to be a woman with a beard, fine. But you're still a woman. XX chromosomes, XY chromosomes. What is a woman? XY chromosomes. XX chromosomes. A man? XY chromosome. That's what a man is. No, a man is way deeper than that, but the fact of the matter is that's the definition. I digress again. Let's get back to inflation. What are we going to do about this? Well, we need to vote these rhinos out of office, and we need to vote the Democrats out of office. Folks, this is dire. We need to get back to not absolutely destroying the English language so that people won't be offended. Matt Gaetz, thank you. When they said, well, do you think that and I think the quote was, do you think that all the women that are pro-abortion that are protesting out there are fat and ugly? He went, yeah. And I often said they have a tank division. But yeah. And he said, well, what if they're offended by it? Well, be offended. And that's the way I feel. Be offended. Whatever. It doesn't matter. The world doesn't revolve around you. Look at me. Fat. Working on it, but fat. I mean, am I going to go, oh, well, that's just offensive? It's the fucking truth. I mean, I'm 70 pounds overweight. It's the truth. The truth doesn't give a shit about your feelings. Thank you, Ben Shapiro, the word ninja. The point being is this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make a shit if it offends you or not, if it's the truth. I mean, the same people that are just absolutely poised to abort babies before birth, I don't put anything past those people. What's next? Let's empty out the nursing homes because grandma she don't know where she's at. These folks are dangerous. I digress again. So here's the thing, folks. The recession is real. It's here, and it's going to get ugly. It's going to get a lot more ugly, and you better vote in November. We got to get these people out. I mean, gas prices are up, and they're trying to say, oh, well, gas prices are down like $1. Okay, you sold 1 million barrels of oil to China, and you're pumping our strategic reserve into the system. It's temporary, really temporary. They're doing this to try to get the gas prices down for the elections. They're going to skyrocket when they run out of strategic oil reserves. And I'm telling you, man, these people we've got to get them out of office. People like AOC, they got to go. People that hate this country, they've got to go. And you talk about nationalism. There's nothing wrong with loving your country and being a patriot. Nothing. Look at the DOJ and the FBI. I can urge anybody, Ohio v. Rayner, the Fifth Amendment's basic function is so that innocent persons don't become ensnared by ambiguous circumstances. That's a quote from the United States Supreme Court in Ohio v. Rayner. In other words, shut the fuck up if the police are talking to you, because that's the only way you've got to keep them from sticking a plunger up your ass. So they have 1,000 ways to get you. You got one way to keep them from doing it. And never can you say anything to the cops, especially the FBI or the feds, that's going to benefit you. Ever. So, and when people say, well, you wouldn't have anything to hide. Well, yeah, that's what that case law is for. It's not for guilty people, you idiots. The Fifth Amendment has got a bad rap. It's for innocent people because it's the only way to keep you out of trouble. Because you can, and let me just say this. Anything you say to the cops that would benefit you, anything that you say to them, you bring it up in court, it's going to be hearsay. Anything you say to them is admissible. Anything they say to you that could benefit your case is hearsay. That alone ought to give you a reason why not to. And I'll put if I think about it, I'll put a link to the law professor over at one of the, I forget the university. He explains all this in great detail, which is an amazing lecture if you want to look at it. Anyway, so the point being is this. We're in a recession. We have a weaponized DOJ that's going after mothers and parents that are concerned about their kids and their well-being. We have a weaponized FBI. We have a weaponized federal government. We got to get those people out of there, and also get these politicians off their ass that when we do get power, the Republicans need to get off their fucking ass and actually do something. You shouldn't be sitting around going, let's get along and be bipartisan. Fuck that. We need to go after every one of them. Adam Schiff, every single one of them that did these things and illegally targeted people, patriots. When you target someone for no other reason, I'll give you an example. The doctor that's also an attorney, she's a doctor, 60 days in jail for trespassing. Colbert's people did the same thing. Where's their 60 days in jail? No, they dropped the charges. This shit's biased. Not only does Lady Justice, in this world we live in today, not only does Lady Justice doesn't have a blindfold on anymore, it wouldn't be surprising to me if she had a dick. The way these people are today, they can't even determine the basic biology. It's ridiculous, folks. It's almost like we went backwards in. I feel dumber every time I listen to the news. and look at the news and watch educated people say some of the stupidest shit. Just get rid of biology, just get rid of common sense, get rid of justice, just get rid of all of it. And they always talk about Trump. Trump didn't weaponize his DOJ. He had one attorney general that recused himself, Sessions. He didn't fire Mueller. Any one of his AGs did not fire Mueller. They could have, but they didn't. He let that investigation rock on through. $40 million, $30 million, $30 to $40 million investigation for nothing. For what? A fake dossier that they knew was fake, that they presented to the FISA courts that they knew was fake. Anybody ever been held in contempt yet? Nope. You know what my thing is? I think they ought to get rid of the FISA court. Totally. Just disband it. Anytime that you have and you give more power to the government, they abuse it every single damn time. And you don't have to go any further in this country if you want to see some abuse, civil asset forfeitures. You want to see some abuse, look into that. And most of you don't know that they can stop you on the side of the road if you got too much cash. And it's not illegal to have cash. If you got too much cash that looks like that normal people don't carry that much cash, they can fucking take your cash, never charge you with anything, write you a receipt for it, and say, if you want it back, sue us. Does that sound like due process? I'll give you stuff like seatbelt laws. All that is conditioning laws that do they give a shit whether or not you get in an automobile accident and die? No, they don't. That's why when I was a cop, I never wrote a seatbelt ticket, ever. The fact of the matter is, live free or die. The bottom line is this. It's conditioning laws. It's to see how far they can go. And I think if you don't think the federal government will do shit like that and they're the ones, the federal government's the one that pushes these states to pass these little tyrant laws. We'll cut your federal funding for highways if you don't, pass primary or secondary seatbelt laws. It's not that bad. It won't be on your record. It won't affect your insurance. Oh, okay. Until it does. So the bottom line is I always call those laws to be, they're just social experiments. The bottom line is but hey, look, I may be wrong, right? You can't ride in a car, a nice plush Cadillac without having a seatbelt, but you can climb on a fucking crotch rocket without a helmet on in Florida. In some states. Woohoo! Yeah, let's do that. So apparently they're not worried about your safety, but I've always said if you have enough mountain climbers and enough people falling off the rock, you would have somebody wanting to legislate it. You'd have somebody that couldn't control their own family members or couldn't get their kids to wear a seatbelt. So out of this foundation, we want to make sure that we keep people safe. No, you want to make yourself feel better because you couldn't control your own family. But I've often said this, and I'll say it again, and I'm going to leave it with this. If none of us are capable of making decisions for ourselves of what's right and what's safe and what's not, then who among us, is capable of making it for everyone else? Now think about that. That would be a no. No one. And if your rights are inalienable rights given to you by God, who is anyone to take any of those rights away for any fucking reason? Who? No one. But they've chipped away at our Constitution and chipped away at our Constitution and chipped away at it. At first, you do realize that it was only in the last 100 years that felons didn't have Second Amendment rights. You can go back and research that. And all that does is say, well, he's a convicted felon. He can't own a firearm. That would be terrible. Really? Why? You let him out of jail. He's done served his time to society. He's no longer in the system. He's not on parole. Why? Why would that be so terrible? Just because he was a convicted felon. You know why? Because you have lazy-ass judicial system that didn't keep him in jail for as long as people think that he should have been in jail for. In other words, the punishment doesn't fit the crime. You can go to jail for a long time for one stupid crime, and then you can not go to jail for nothing for another one that's more heinous than that. I'll give you an example. I was talking to a buddy of mine who's I won't say who, he's an attorney. But anyway, we were talking about this. In Mississippi, the age of consent for sex is 16. So a 20-year-old can have sex with a 16-year-old, and it's perfectly legal. But if that 20-year-old texts that 16-year-old about their sexual experience, that's a felony. Making sense to you? Me neither. I'll leave it at that, because that's how stupid our system has gotten in today's world. That's how stupid it's gotten. And so with a lazy judicial system, what they try to do is chip away at your rights. Now, that's for a whole different show, rather than I think that felons should have, or convicted felons should have their rights back. I'll say this. I think that if you tell a child every time he walks into the kitchen table that he's worthless for spilling the milk that he did last week, you're never going to get any kind of change out of that child. And I'm not saying that these guys are children. I'm just saying that if a person is no longer a ward of the state, he's no longer on parole, he's no longer in the system, and he's out, and he stays on the straight and narrow in society for X amount of time, you can figure that out. I think he should get all his rights back. His right to vote, his right to all that. I do. And people say, well, he shouldn't have. Well, look, I'll say this. If God judged us like we judge each other, we'd all go to hell. And I'll leave it at that. Bye-bye.